was the question?
I just wanted to you. I might have border into submission, but I'm going to keep going anyway. I'm not going to stop. Did you write what did I ask? Did you write your books as you were filming?
So yes, I did, and also plays for the theatre as well, and so it was a lot of things going on. I was young.
How did you do that? And you've got a small child. I mean, how were you doing all of this?
I think I thought at the time I must have just been Superwoman, but it does play up because I had a thyroid problem, and I didn't realise an underactive thyroid. And
how does that make you feel?
That makes you feel very tired and very sluggish, makes you put on weight.
Right.
And you are... I thought at the time that it was because I just had a baby, and so the natural thing is you're more tired than normal. And it wasn't until I got checked that I realised that it was a medical problem. It was an underactive thyroid, which is corrected quite easily with thyroxine.
Right.
But if it's not spotted, you can just... It's like you're going through a fog in slow motion, and you just feel exhausted.
And with all that you're doing, you can't afford to be like that. You have to be on top of your game, don't you?
And because everybody else and most of the people didn't have children, you're always trying to keep up. You're always trying to be that step ahead, and you're always trying to be even better because you know that you've got not a handicap, but you've got something that could in fact slow you down and not make you keep up with everybody else. And so I was being a bit hard on myself at the time without knowing it.
So how did you know that you had that it wasn't just you were exhausted with being having a child and all this work? How did you know it was a thyroid problem?
Well, my sister has an underactive thyroid, and so she said get checked, and I remember going to get checked and the doctor thinking, oh, you don't need to get checked, you're fine, because it usually shows itself by a swollen gland here, and I didn't have
but it doesn't always, does it?
It doesn't, but so I had to insist that I was checked.
Right.
And then when I was checked, they said, oh yes, and then they were able to give me the tablets.
Did you get any hair loss with that?
I didn't.
You did?
But my hair's always been quite fine and thin. But I think if it had gone on longer, unchecked, I may have.
Yeah, you would have, yeah. So, you've written all these books by that point. Can I ask you, when did you get, and which book was it you got your first award?
Oh, so much.
Right.
That's the book that's done the best. And it's, should I show it?
Yes, please. Isn't that in the top 100?
It's it's one of few. I can't remember. Top 100. That's the new. Well, one of the new covers, but it's slightly different as well.
Oh, that's new from the one.
I think for a year or two they had this cover.
Right.
But usually it's a daddy with his baby.
So tell us the story of So Much.
So Much is. Basically, when Kieran was a baby, I had him in my arms, and so a lot of the time I couldn't write, but I had a dictaphone, and so I'd make stories up for him, but also record them as well. And so it's about a little boy, a little baby, and basically all the family come to the baby and want to kiss him and eat him and fight him and play with him, and it's just really about my family and how we all react to babies, and most families react to babies, and they all come in and they just want to gobble him up, really, and it's quite a simple story, but what's different about it is it's West Indian family, and in a lot of the children's books there are a little bit more now, there weren't many black characters in the books, and so for me it was important that those characters were in there, but it was also quite difficult to get published because of that.
So who was it gave you your first break then?
Gina Pollinger was an agent that I was introduced to by a woman called Elspeth Lindner, who was working for Methuen at the time. And what I did was I'd sent some stories to a competition, which was part of the Ryman's news agent.
Yes.
And She magazine were running this competition, and so I just sent some stories off it, and they were Mammy Sugar Falling Down, which were my first stories in 87, 88. And so when I sent those stories off, they didn't win. But what they said, what Elspeth said was, she knows an agent that might be able to place them.
Right.
And so she introduced me to Gina Pollinger, and Gina was quite a well-known agent and very much respected in the industry.
Right.
And so
people would listen to her.
So I couldn't just send them off spec because they wouldn't be read.
Right.
Whereas if she brought it, then they'd read the stories and say what they thought. And so she said, I know Century Hutchinson might be interested, and they're just on the next street, I'll bring them over. And she did. And then they got in touch and said, well, there's 2 stories here, would you like to make that into a book? Mammy's Sugar Falling Down, which is about a little girl coming from the Caribbean, and when she sees snow for the first time, she thinks it's sugar, and so it's Mammy's Sugar Falling Down. So that's why that was called that. And it was based on that, really, because of one of the phrases that my sister had said. It wasn't even one of the sisters that was born in the Caribbean. It was one of the other sisters. But I used it and I kind of transferred it into that. But it was just, I like listening to odd things that people say and then kind of taking it into different directions.
Do we have to be careful what we say around Trish, because you know it's in a book, you know.
It's my family. That's what they say. They're very careful about what they say in front of me, but hey. So
if you meet Trish, you know, just keep your mouth shut. Let's have a look at some of your other books. I mean, you've got so many there. How many have you written in total?
It's about 20-something.
Oh, now, catch. My daughter loves this book, and Trish, you were very kind enough. We came to see Trish in pantomime that Trish had written. I mean, there's no end to this woman's talents. I can't stand it. No, I don't mean that. I really don't. But we came to see Rapunzel that you'd written in it was Stratford East Theatre, wasn't it? And anyway, you signed her book for her. Obviously, this isn't her book. We've got her book off camera. But this book is just a beautiful book, and we used to read this together. And at the end, when Mummy's blowing a kiss to the little girl,
you spoilt it now. Everybody knows the end.
Oh, do you know what? You can't take me anywhere. You really can't. Scrap that. I didn't mean it. I fibbed. That was a big fat fib, wasn't it? It was a big fat fib. Right, moving on very swiftly. I look at
these are my gems. My lovelies.
My goodness.
My sweeties.
So how many in total have we got?
I think there's 20, but there's a couple I think there's in anthologies, but have I got them there? Yes, 20-something.
I mean, you must be so proud of yourself. I love the cover of this. Tales from the Caribbean.
Yeah, that was that's some retellings of like it says on the book, Tales from the Caribbean. But what I found difficult about writing this particular book was the fact that a lot of the stories from the Caribbean are oral stories, and so they were passed down to us. And
do they change then from generation?
Yes. And not just that, they were just like one-liners in a sense, just like a little proverb thing. So then you had to expand on it for 2,500 words per story. Then it's just kind of created. So, but that side of it I enjoy. It's like joining the dots and seeing, you know, the motivation behind the characters and why they're there, rather than just.
That's a discipline, though,
Trish. But it's fun because I like working out and finding out, and I want to know why. People do things.
I thank God that people like Trish take the time, because that kind of discipline is nowhere in me. It doesn't even run near me. But to actually be able to sit down, like you say, take a few lines and then expand on that is, yes, that is, I mean, look at this is just unbelievable. Are you sure it hasn't gone to your head?
I sometimes, to be honest, sometimes, when I'm feeling a bit down.
Do you get your books out?
No, I Google myself. Just to see who I am, but just to have a moment of well done. Yeah, done something, done some good work.
Get those awards, start polishing them.
No, not done that. I've not got that far yet, but there's time.
I think I get a bottle of wine and through a straw, and I'd sit surrounded by all of my books and my awards, and I would just pat myself on the shoulder all the time, because this is quite an achievement. I don't even know which one to go to, because there are just so many. Do you have a favourite?
I do, actually. I'm glad you said that, because this one's my favourite. Okay, this is the Grandad Tree, and it's about my dad, and when he passed away. My son Kieran used to ask about Grandad, and and I wanted to write a book that celebrated his life, and I wanted to be wanted to have some kind of fun and colour, and just so what I did was I put his life against the life of an apple tree, and so, you know, seed to the tree and going through the seasons as well. So it was spring, so that it was a very simple story, but it also looked at how life is, the cycle of life.
Yes.
But then the reason why I like this book the best is because the illustrator, Sharon Wilson, she's based in Bermuda, and she did the illustrations with pastels, chalks and stuff.
Oh, beautiful.
But the actual image that she used, whoever she used as a model, looked exactly like my dad, and so it was like, it's a bit spooky, but it was.
That's just.
It did me
that
too.
Is spooky, isn't it?
And I can remember because I showed my mum it when she was alive, and she just looked and she said, "Wow, you look like your father," and it was so true, and it was like, I don't know what she kind of intuitively locked into. It's the same with so much. The pictures in there, even though Helen Oxenbury hadn't seen any of my family, there were images within there, and not just images, but actual poses.
And you get a feeling from it that was,
Yeah, I just think certain artists have just got a way of tuning into certain things, you know, and you know when it's right.
Because you must have to go back and forwards with illustrators, and you know what you want.
Yes.
And is it difficult to go back to say to them, no, this is not what I had?
No, it's not difficult, because we went through 3 illustrators for this one.
Right.
But because it was about somebody who died, they were just doom and gloom and very dark colours, and you're like, no child's going to pick that book up and nobody's going to want to look at it.
And it's a celebration, isn't
it? was a celebration of life, which
is
West Indians, that's what we do. We celebrate even at funerals, we have a good time.
Yeah.
And it's that joy that I wanted to have. Yes, it's a sad book. Yes, it's about loss, but it's also about celebrating the life that person had when they were young, you know, and the kids.
And that's your favourite?
That's my favourite, yes.
That is gorgeous.
It's out of print, but it's my favourite.
Yeah, oh, it's out of print?
Yes.
Oh, that's a shame. Well, it should go back into print, shouldn't it? Look at this. Just the cover alone, you can feel, you can sense from that, can't you? That sort of loving, absolutely. Look at the way that little girl's looking. I mean, they look real, don't they? Looks like a photograph, really does. Well, now with and we will be looking at some of your awards. Tell me, I was very excited. I was on Facebook stalking, as you do. And, oh, don't tell me you don't stalk. We all know that you do. Anyway, and there you are. There's a picture. Well, it's your face in Times Square, projector. Tell us about that, because that is incredible.
Well, what happened was I was asked to do an interview for Black History Month, and the NASDAQ is a big organisation that deals with shares and things, I believe. And so they were part of it, and then they said that they would put my picture on their main headquarters building in Times Square. And I thought, yeah, all right, not expecting it to happen. And so when it did happen and I saw it, I thought it was amazing. And I thought, wow.
It's incredible.
I was just so glad I'd sent a good picture, because I thought it looked great.
I mean, it's so iconic. I mean, all the movies you see, don't you? You see Tom Hanks meeting the love of his life in Times Square. It's been romanticised forever in movies, so it's so iconic. And then I saw your face, the picture, there's your face, and I ran up and said, do you remember? I said, excuse me, yes. I said... Yeah, excuse me, yes. So I ran upstairs, didn't I?
Yes.
And I said, oh, look, thank you.
Yes.
He's not listening to me. And I said, look at Trish, our whole face, because it's enormous, isn't it? I mean, your face isn't enormous, obviously, in real life, but when it's up there, and it's electronic, it's fantastic. I have to take you to something that's very exciting for me. So, I did see a little interview where you said what you would say to your younger self was that always have dreams, because dreams can come true. So 2 of yours, obviously you like Donny Osmond, or adored Donny Osmond, and Paul Michael Glazer. He was gorgeous, wasn't he?
He wasn't just gorgeous, he was, I mean, even the character in Starsky and Hutch was just so...
Yes, so macho. We all need somebody like that in our lives, don't we? And we know, we don't always get what we want, but you know, I go along as best I can, Trish. I don't complain. I try not to complain. So tell me, how did you meet him? What was he like? And you have a picture of him, don't you?
I do have a picture of him. I went to see Fiddler on the Roof at the Alhambra in Bradford, and I was like a schoolgirl, honestly. And I went back afterwards at the stage door and I waited. Right. I waited with others.
And you would have waited days.
I would have waited days.
Yeah.
And when he came out, because he was dressed, as the character with the big white beard and stuff, so he looked a lot older. And how we remember him with his black hair and his cardigan.
But did he still have that sort of, there's an aura around certain actors.
He did.
Oh, tell me, he did.
He did, but there was also, I know he's been through a lot from what I've read. And so there was a kind of wisdom there as well.
That's very attractive, isn't it?
It was, and a no-nonsense kind of look. So it wasn't the same Starsky as we know.
He'd been through.
He'd been through a lot of life, as we all have.
Yeah.
But he was just so endearing, he was just lovely, and he was just warm and...
Did you find yourself going
shaking.
back? Did you go back to that? Because you go back to that time,
like
don't you?
Were
you really?
Yeah. I really couldn't talk. And then I asked my friend to take a picture, and she took a picture, but her camera was rubbish. And so it's got this like a glow all the way around the image, and we look just fuzzy in there, but you can see.
But that was deliberate from her friend, That was probably
Barbara.
Yes. You can. The thing is, when you meet somebody that you've. My thing was Tony Curtis. I know it's not all about me.
Oh my gosh, I'd love to meet him.
So
I'd love to.
Twice.
Is this the one?
3 times I met him. No, sadly, no, he's not. But I met him 3 times, and he asked me out to dinner. I know, anyway, it's a long story. And then I met him twice after that. He was married then. But you know what? He had something about him. And each time I wished that I'd had a picture taken or I'd sat and chatted with him. But they just have this aura about them. Anyway, I'm rambling now.
I'd love to have met Paul Newman.
Paul, so would I. Well, tell me, what was Donny Osmond like?
I didn't meet him, but I saw him on stage.
Oh, right, okay.
And that was...
I was going to ask you about his teeth. I don't know why.
It's just, it's just kind of sickly. I mean, compared with Paul Michael Glazer, he's quite a sickly sweet.
Oh, but Paul Michael, it was a matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Yeah, whereas Donny Osmond just was eternally young
and sweet.
Tell her about David Cassidy.
David Cassidy. Oh yes, well that was a bit. See, you either like Donny Osmond or David Cassidy.
Yeah, my friend liked David Cassidy and I liked Donny Osmond. Did you like David Cassidy?
Yeah, because like the bad one, wasn't he? So anyway, I liked him and somebody got me a ticket to go and see him. So we ended up in this sports hall in, was it Brighton?
Brighton.
Is that lately?
That was about, about 15 years ago.
Okay.
So we're in the sports hall. This very officious woman with the tickets, and anyway, he stood up and he said, right, I'm not going to sing any of my hits. He's standing there with an acoustic guitar, and there was this, like that, and he said, well, I'm sorry if you're disappointed, and he told the audience off because they did. And he said, this is from my new album. Well, you've got to know that we're not here for the new album. So I got up to go to the toilet, and this woman was just, this officious lady was like, you can't go to the toilet. It was just horrendous. The whole evening was... So as he started to tell us off again, I think this was like 3rd time round, I thought, well, we can't stay here. I can't stay to be told off like some sort of naughty 8-year-old. So I got up, but because the room was so tiny, it was like, a front room extended.
Really, isn't it?
It was.
The size of stardom that he was.
Yeah, so you couldn't hide. It'd be like a large front room. And so I stood up and I said, right, I want to go now. And as we walked out, you could just hear our footsteps. It was just really embarrassing. And then he just looked mortified as if to say, what are you going? I thought, well, yeah, because I don't want to listen to the new album. Anyway, so you've been really, really busy through COVID, through lockdown. You said you've had a lot of work coming in that you weren't expecting. And I know that you've written for EastEnders as part of the writing team, and didn't you write for Emmerdale?
No, but I was storyliner for a short time.
Okay. Can I just ask, what is that like when there's more than one writer working together? Do you find that... Is it easy? Is it easy to sort of step back at times, or because I know that the storyboards have been done months in advance anyway. But if you want to put your sort of, your ideas forward, do you find that personality-wise there could be some stronger characters in there, and you have to step back a bit?
Yes. I mean, in the instances that I was involved, right, with EastEnders, it was very much, they were inviting black writers in. So it was very much that kind of ticking the boxes.
Right.
And more recent, that's happened again, and it's how can I put this?
How does that feel? That must be...
It's horrible, actually. It's not a fair playing field,
right.
And it can be very soul destroying if you allow it. I think that's why I jumped from different jobs and different types of storytelling, because you can find yourself in situations where you're banging your head on a brick wall a bit harder than you need to be, trying to get your story through, or a different type of story through.
Right.
And so that can be very difficult. With Emmerdale, again, it was a similar kind of, being very careful, a similar kind of feel. But there are times, I think, when it has been a lot better.
Is it, I know you said that it's going back slightly there in EastEnders, but do you, because things will have changed since you were first stepping out, just as with all the books, you know, children from different backgrounds couldn't see any images that reflected who they were, so now obviously that's a lot better, but do you still think there's an awful long way to go?
I think there's an awful long way to go. In children's books is getting a lot better.
Right.
In drama, TV drama, a long way to go.
Are you mindful that you're out there almost setting up for the next generation to come up? So and then their job will be to help their next generation.
Yes.
So you've got to be as strong as you can. Yeah. But like you say, still
it's
a long
tiring.
way.
It's very tiring, you know, and I think in my younger years, I didn't allow it to penetrate, just kind of carry on. And like I said, I would go from children's to script writing for TV, to radio, in order for it not to penetrate. Otherwise you just give up.
But did that also make you feel that you weren't as needy? Because if you're just in one place and they are dictating a certain way, like you say, it's soul destroying, but if you know that you can jump to that, in actual fact, it's taking your power back, isn't it? You're more in control. Yeah, so I can really understand that. I mean, on a more ridiculous thing, I mean, when I first went away to drama school, I was only 12, and I remember they took me out of all my acting lessons because they said, with a northern accent, you'll never get a job. And I was not allowed to join in for months and months until they said I could speak properly. And I know that's on a completely different thing. But
it's the same thing, actually.
But it's like,
it is the same.
It made quite a difference to me because people would have a laugh at me because I had a northern accent, but they deemed what was correct. So the powers that be that said you could have an acting job deemed that if you had a northern accent, that was not correct. So you had to it had to be taken out of you.
That's why I'm saying it's the same thing, because it is the powers that be. It's those gatekeepers that make those decisions.
And they're never creative, are they, these gatekeepers, are they?
No. And so those gatekeepers need to change so that there are a wider variety of gatekeepers in order to make that next generation be able to find those doors accessible to them.
But those gatekeepers, that in itself, people can't get in to be the new gatekeepers with a different vision. So I don't know when that changes. Right, now I have to say, even though you're busy and you've got a big career ahead of you, is there anything that you really, really desire that you haven't done yet? Well, I'm sure you've got loads of challenges, we all do, but is there something in particular?
There's a couple of things that I'm working on now, like So Much, for instance. I'm making that into a musical. So Leeds Playhouse have said that they would like to do it, but obviously they can't afford to do it how I would like it to be done, so we're looking for co-producers and people to get on board to do that. But I'd like to, my next, I think, stage would be to get into the position of producing my own stuff and getting to be a gatekeeper. Even though I'm of that age now where I should be slowing down, I'm kind of thinking there are certain things that maybe I won't do as many different things, but there are certain things that I would like to do now in order to let that next generation come through.
Yeah, and that really makes perfect sense, because if you become the gatekeeper, then you do get to bring through, you know, without all of the, I mean, because there is no creativity at the moment with these gatekeepers, and we see it, and it reflects what we're seeing, what we're reading, what we're hearing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I think if you're not used to anything else, you don't understand.
Exactly.
There's so much more out there if it could just be shown.
Yeah.
So, well, I wish you luck with all of it.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you.
the time.
It's been lovely. Really enjoyed it.
But guess what? I've got a big surprise for you. I know I'm not Cilla Black or anything, but
Surprise, surprise.
surprise! I am going to put 2 of the cast members together that haven't been together, seen on screen for about, how many years? 30 years? Trish Cooke and Ricky Diamond from Playdays. I'm going to squeeze myself out of the way.
Make room, make room.
Make room, because Liam needs an awful lot, well, Ricky Diamond needs an awful lot of space these days, much more than he ever did. So I'm just going to pop right out here and I'm going to leave the 2 of you to it. Now, Ricky Diamond says, you're where you are today because of him. I just have to ask, is this true?
Absolutely.
Okay, right. Do you want to come in?